The world has welcomed a ceasefire agreement between Israel and Iran, but concerns remain high over its fragility and the possibility of renewed violence. Early Tuesday, Israel and Iran reportedly agreed to a phased ceasefire plan announced by US President Donald Trump. However, both nations issued sharp warning. Each threatened swift retaliation if the other broke the deal. Soon after Israel signaled its agreement, Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz claimed Iran had violated the truce by firing missiles. In response, he ordered military strikes on Tehran. Trump quickly intervened, warning Israel on social media, "Do not drop those bombs."
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too. Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I'd never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that.
The contradictory actions have only fueled confusion around the already complex ceasefire schedule. Meanwhile, Iran has declared it will resume its nuclear program. Israel maintains that its initial June 13 strikes on Iran were driven by intelligence indicating that Iran was close to developing a nuclear weapon.
Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months, less than a year.
The United States echoed this justification after its own strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities this past Saturday. Despite the uncertainty, global reactions have been largely supportive, albeit cautious. Many nations have also called for a renewed focus on a ceasefire in Gaza. Iran's Supreme National Security Council declared that it had forced Israel to unilaterally accept defeat and accept a ceasefire. Still, it warned that Iranian forces will keep their hands on the trigger in case of further aggression. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu claimed victory, stating that Israel had achieved its objectives, disabling Iran's nuclear and missile capabilities, and agreed to the ceasefire in coordination with Trump. He thanked the US for its support in eliminating the Iranian nuclear threat. Opposition leader Yair Lapid took the opportunity to call for a ceasefire in Gaza, urging the return of hostages and the start of reconstruction.
So, yes, eventually I want peace with the Palestinians. And this shouldn't be off the table ever, because this is what I want for my children. The reconstruction and rebuilding, rehabilitating of Gaza is going to be the second largest economical project in the Middle East.
In the United States, Trump's ceasefire efforts have sparked political division. South Carolina Representative Nancy Mace praised Trump, calling the ceasefire a sign of global safety. Vice President J.D. Vance said the president aimed for long-term peace. However, Democratic Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez raised constitutional concerns, stating that Trump's acknowledgement of unilaterally involving the U.S. in war was both illegal and serious. Qatar, which helped mediate the deal at the request of the US, welcomed the ceasefire but voiced concern over its reported violation. Amir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani emphasized the need for diplomacy to prevail and confirmed that ceasefire talks on Gaza, being mediated by Qatar and Egypt, will resume within 2 days. He urged Israel not to exploit the Iran ceasefire to continue attacks on Gaza. Egypt also welcomed the truce, calling it a potential turning point for restoring regional calm. Lebanon's Prime Minister Nawaf Abdullah Salim Salam expressed relief that his country avoided being drawn into the conflict. Jordan applauded the ceasefire, calling for its protection and an extension of peace to Gaza. Saudi Arabia echoed the welcome, supporting Trump's announcement of a ceasefire formula. Russia's Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said the ceasefire is to be welcomed and hoped it would be sustainable. China urged all parties to return to a political settlement, emphasizing that it wants peace and stability in the Middle East. The European Union's Commission President Ursula von der Leyen called the ceasefire an important step toward restoring regional stability and urged Iran to engage in credible diplomacy. France pressed Iran to engage in negotiations addressing concerns around its nuclear and ballistic program. Germany's Chancellor Friedrich Merz thanked Qatar and others for their prudence and called the ceasefire a potentially very positive development following decisive US military action. Following the ceasefire, airspace across the Middle East began to reopen. open, including in Qatar, Iraq, Oman, the UAE, and Syria. Airlines are now focused on clearing a backlog of passengers. Virgin Australia noted that more than 25,000 people are currently stranded in Doha. Meanwhile, markets reacted quickly. Oil prices fell by 3%, global shares surged, and the dollar weakened. The dollar dropped 0.77% to 145 yuan, while the euro rose 0.2% to $1.1602.